Let's get started. So today I'm going to talk about holistic approach and management of teenage girls' health issues. So the first step in holistic approach is to understand your body and the changes it goes through during puberty. In today's session, I'll be covering the following topics. Should you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me at the end. First, reproduction. As we all know, reproduction is a biological phenomenon in which a young one is produced from the parents. So every living organism comes into existence as a result of reproduction. In sexual reproduction, the young one born has genetic material partly derived from the mother and partly from its father. In most species, the female bears the young one in the womb for a stipulated period of time. It varies from species to species, and then she gives birth. For instance, mother elephant gives birth to a baby elephant, and this baby elephant has all the traits of the mother as well as the father. But to be able to reproduce, the animal must first attain sexual maturity. Similarly, in human beings, puberty is that phase during which a number of events occur. Sexual maturity is attained in order to become capable of reproduction. Next, what is puberty? Puberty is the link between childhood and adulthood. Know that puberty is a normal part or phase of growing up. This process roughly starts at the age of 11 and is completed by the age of 16 or as late as 18, during which there is gradual development of secondary sexual characters. Around the age of 13, girls start having periods. And by the time they reach 19, development is almost complete and her body functions similar to that of an adult woman. To understand these changes, let us first know about female reproductive system. Reproductive organs in females can be divided into internal genital organs, external genital organs, and accessory genital organs for our understanding. So this picture here shows internal genital organs. There's a uterus or what we call womb in the center. There are two ovaries. These are gonads which produce the sex cells. And these two ovaries are connected to the uterus through the fallopian tubes. Coming to the lower part of the uterus, this part, this narrow part is called cervix. The word cervix literally means neck. And this part is continuous as vagina. And vagina is nothing but the birth passage through which mother delivers her baby. Next is external genital organ. So is the one we see externally between the thighs. This area is medically called vulva. During puberty, we see development of hair in this area and deposition of fat beneath the skin. In the center of vulva, there is something called vestibule, which has two openings. First one is the urethral opening through which urine is let out of the body. And the one below is vaginal opening through which menstrual blood comes out. And this vaginal opening is partially covered by a flap called hymen. Next, breast. Breast is called the accessory reproductive organ in females because breasts secrete breast milk, which is the major source of food and nutrition to the newborn baby. Now let's talk about changes in puberty. The changes occurring in a girl's body during puberty are neuroendocrinal in nature. It simply means that there is coordination between brain and reproductive organs. There's something called hypothalamus and pituitary gland in brain. These two secrete hormones, which act on the ovaries. And as a response, ovaries produce certain hormones, and the effects of which are seen on the uterus, cervix, vagina, and also other parts of the body. So this is called HPO axis, that is hypothalamo-pituitary-ovarian axis. Change during puberty happens at two levels. First is physical, second is psychological level. Physical changes during puberty are, first of all, increase in height, and this is because of a hormone called growth hormone, development of breasts, widening of hips, and fat deposition. And this is because of estrogen hormone. Development of hair on the genitals and in the armpit is because of male hormones, which is also present in the female body. These are the external changes that are visible from outside. Meanwhile, there are changes occurring inside the body, like enlargement of ovaries, uterus, and breast tissue. So basically, the 5 important physical changes that are evident during puberty are breast development, hair growth in pubic area and armpit, growth in height, and menstruation or periods. So in this slide, I've mentioned the sequence of pubertal development as per age. So breast buds appear at 11.2 years, development of genital hair at 11.7 years, peak growth velocity by 12.1 years, early armpit hair growth starts at 12.5 years, first period starts at 13.5 years, around 13.5 is what I'm saying. Adult breasts appear by 14.4 years, completion of genital and armpit hair growth by 15.3 years, and the physical growth arrests at 18 years. So this growth refers to the development and maturation of bones. Next, let's move on to the psychological changes that happen during puberty. It is this phase where the girl develops the ability to think abstractly. She'll be concerned with more serious subjects like philosophy, cultural issues, social issues, could be politics, and so on. She starts thinking long term, kind of setting goals for her career or profession. Basically, a more serious thinking starts at this phase when compared to her previous childlike thinking. And her way of approaching, handling situations is more mature. At the same time, she goes through a lot of mood swings, lots of up and downs. At times, she feels helpless, wants to spend time alone. She's trying to explore different fields that interest her, and so on. She even starts comparing herself with her peers. Peers is someone who is of the same level as you. For a 10th grader, all the high school girls are her peers. There's some sort of constant struggle for independence or control among such girls. In this phase of life, there is increased risk-taking behavior and heightened emotions. These ups and downs are because of the recent, new, changing level of hormones and the fact that the part of the brain that is responsible for judgment, planning, impulse control are still maturing. So let's see what exactly happens in the body after sexual maturation. First, so the next 3-4 slides may be a little difficult for a young audience to understand, but I guess, the older girls may follow what I'm trying to explain. After a girl gets her first period, for the first 2 years, periods can be irregular, it can be scanty, that is very less bleeding in periods, or it could be excessively heavy. She may get periods once in 2 months or longer, or sometimes she may get periods twice in a month. This is because her neuroendocrine system that I explained some time back needs some time to adjust to the new normal environment in her body. Once there is proper coordination of the HPO axis, there is proper establishment of the menstrual cycle. So an egg or ovum is enclosed in a multi-celled structure called follicle. You can see in this picture here. Ovary contains many such follicles. These follicles are in continuous growth and maturation. Okay, and the egg inside it, the pink structure that you see here inside the follicle is the ovum. So this is also under constant growth and maturation. And one ovary releases one egg every month after it is it gets matured. So this process generally happens around the mid-cycle, and this is what we call ovulation. Let me tell you an interesting fact. When a girl is in her mother's womb around, say, 5th month of pregnancy, the baby will have about 6 to 7 million follicles. At birth, it comes down to about 2 million follicles. At puberty, that is about 11, 12, or 13 years, it further reduces to 4 lakhs. And in her entire reproductive life, that is after she's attained sexual maturity, only 400 eggs or about 400 eggs are likely to get released. And by the time a woman reaches the age of 50, she's left with no more eggs. The level of sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone goes down. So she will stop getting periods and in a true sense loses her ability to reproduce. So this is what we call menopause. So going back to ovulation, like I was saying, every month a mature egg is released from one ovary under the influence of a hormone called luteinizing hormone. The follicle which has released the egg, it starts secreting a hormone called progesterone. This progesterone hormone, it acts on the uterus and it increases its thickness to form a comfortable bed in case pregnancy happens. But if fertilization, that is, fusion of male and female sex cell does not happen, this thick bed or cushion sheds as periods every month. So different hormones play different role at different times in maintaining this cycle. And the time period between first day of one period to the first day of the next period is called one menstrual cycle. In the next few slides, I will talk about 3 to 4 indicators that will tell you if your period has been normal or not. First is the age of onset. If a girl starts her periods anytime between the age of 10 and 15 naturally, then it is normal. Second indicator is regularity. Here you have to check 2 parameters. First is duration and second is length of the cycle. Duration of bleeding has to be somewhere between 2 and 8 days, while the length of the cycle should be between 21 and 35 days. So on an average, a girl bleeds for 4 to 5 days in a cycle of about 28 to 30 days. But always remember to count your cycle length from the first day of bleeding. Next is the amount or quantity of bleeding. Generally, a girl bleeds about 20 to 80 ml per cycle. A more practical way of finding this out or finding out if you're bleeding more or less is by counting the number of pads changed on the second day. That is because 70% of blood loss happens on the second day of periods. If you change about 2 to 4 fully soaked regular sized pads on the second day without passing heavy clots, then it is considered to be normal. Next, let's discuss very important topic. When should you see a gynecologist? Whenever a girl starts showing signs of pre-puberty, I'll explain it later, signs of puberty, or after her first period, she should ideally see a gynecologist at least once a year. Menstrual irregularities like heavy periods, irregular periods, or very less bleeding in periods are quite a commonality in the first few months to a couple of years, and this is said to be normal. But I would still recommend you to see a gynecologist to confirm if everything is okay. Next, I'm going to talk about some pubertal and adolescent problems where seeing a gynecologist is very much necessary, like I said earlier, to make sure everything is okay. And in case your doctor finds out some cause for your problem or any abnormality there, you can get it treated at the earliest. So let's talk about each of these one by one. First is in pre-puberty. So a girl may have complaints like white discharge, spotting, pain in her lower tummy on and off, or urinary problems. These problems that I have enlisted are mostly because of increasing hormonal levels and developing sexual organs. In such cases, what do you do? First and the foremost is local hygiene. Local hygiene is very, very important. Okay, I would like to give you a few tips that you should follow. Using clean undercloths which are sun dried, because that sun dried undergarments will not have wetness, and wetness can favor growth of bacteria. Second, always use cotton fabric. Okay, and if a girl has white discharge every day, or she has spotting on and off, she can use panty liners, and it has to be changed every 4 hours to avoid infection. After peeing, she has to wipe the area from front to back. Please remember, from front to back, using a toilet paper, or she could just wash the area with lukewarm water and keep it dry and clean. Okay, so do not wear tight undergarments. Okay, that is also very important. Next is improvement of your general health. When your overall health is good, your reproductive organs are naturally healthy. Taking foods containing vitamins like vitamin B, C, D, E, iron, calcium, adding minerals to your diet is also important. Drinking plenty of water is also very, very essential. You should always be physically active, no matter what. Okay, if you have pain in your tummy during this time, you have pain on and off, hot water bag is safe to be used. Next, let's move on to early puberty. So what is early puberty? It is when a girl starts with secondary sexual characters before the age of 8, or her first period starts before the age of 10. Okay, reasons for this could be girls' body constitution, could be because of excess production of estrogen, which is in turn because of problems in brain, could be because of an injury, infection, or tumor, and some diseases of ovaries and adrenal glands can also cause precocious puberty or early puberty. Adrenal glands are nothing but they are a pair of glands which are present above the kidneys on either side. They also secrete different hormones in addition to androgens or male hormones. In such cases, your doctor will quickly run you through different blood tests, scans, and he may suggest or give you medications, to block the action of sex hormones and slow down your skeletal growth. Next, let's talk about delayed puberty or late puberty. If breast tissue and pubic hair, that is hair on the genitals, or any of these do not develop by 14 years of age, the girl is said to have delayed puberty. And she may start periods as late as 16 years. And reasons for this are malnutrition, long-standing sickness, some problems in ovaries, tumors in brain, or there could be some structural problems inside the uterus or vagina, which can cause delayed puberty. In delayed puberty, your doctor will ask you for some blood tests, okay, and scans which are relevant to find out the exact reason for delay. He may give you medications to improve your general health, treat sickness if you have any, or if the level of your hormones in the body are less, you may need hormonal supplements. Next, let's talk about puberty menorrhagia. This means heavy periods in puberty. In such a case, the girl may need to change her pads way too often, maybe 4 to 6 pads a day or even more. And the bleeding could be prolonged. It may not stop even after 8 days, or it could appear twice in a month, or it could be extremely unpredictable. The reasons for this could be PCOS or thyroid problems, blood-related problems, or diseases of the reproductive organs. We shall discuss about PCOS later. In such cases, parents must take the child to the doctor because heavy bleeding can cause the hemoglobin levels to go down very quickly, which can have serious effects on her health. Heavy bleeding may cause the girl to panic. So parents and elders should educate the child, okay, explain the situation to her and assure the child that this illness is treatable and she's going to be okay. The girl needs to rest in such a phase. Okay, she needs to improve her general health. In certain cases, your doctor may have to do certain tests to exclude certain blood-related disorders. Okay, and in very rare or severe cases, hormonal pills and maybe small surgical correction is required. Next, let's talk about white discharge. White discharge is a common problem faced by prepubertal and pubertal girls, as I mentioned earlier. If your cycle length is 28 days, having white discharge on or around 14th day, that is mid-cycle, is normal. This is because of ovulation, like I mentioned earlier. And you may also see white discharge a few days before your next periods. This is because of high level of estrogen, and such white discharge is completely normal. Normal white discharge are generally, normal white discharge generally is non-smelly, non-irritant, and non-itchy. As mentioned earlier, remedies for this is pretty much the same as those mentioned for prepubertal problems or prepubertal white discharge. But if your discharge looks yellowish, greenish with bad smell, that is, it stinks, there's itchiness and discomfort, then it is not normal. If you have any of these problems, you should see a doctor immediately. Next, let's talk about painful periods. This is a very common problem among teenagers, right? As I mentioned earlier, periods are generally painless in the first 2 years since ovaries are not mature enough to release eggs. Pain which is mild, not disturbing your day-to-day activities, is normal. But if it is severe enough to kind of hamper your daily routine, then you must see a gynecologist. Most common reasons for pain among teenagers is the anxiety and tension. However, pelvic problems like fibroid or muscular growths inside the uterus can also be the cause for pain. Okay. Release of prostaglandins is said to be another cause for painful periods. So what are prostaglandins? Prostaglandins are nothing but local hormones that get released in the body when egg is released every month. So if there is no ovulation, there is no egg release, and there's no egg release, then there is no prostaglandins, and no prostaglandins, so there is no pain. So this is exactly the reason why for the first 2 years, generally the period is painless. Next. So in such cases, you have to visit the gynaec to rule out serious reasons for pain. And if no identifiable cause is found out for pain, then pain relieving medications can be taken, which all of us know, like Mafthol tablet or a cyclopam tablet. Parents and elders should give assurance and psychological support to the child at this phase. So, and avoiding constipation is another good way of getting rid of pain. And constipation can be overcome by adding fiber-rich food to your diet. Okay, improving your general health will also help you overcome pain. Okay, and if your blood work shows low hemoglobin, it needs to be improved as early as possible, because improvement in hemoglobin can significantly reduce pain. Be physically active, do exercises, practice yogasanas like Vajrasana, Sarvangasana, Baddha Konasana every day. Okay, this should help you. Next, I've mentioned a few remedies, like you can consume this during pain. You can make a decoction of cumin, okay, and add a teaspoon of ghee to it, and you can consume this twice or thrice a day on the first day or second day whenever you have pain. Okay, you can drink ajwain water, which is also very beneficial, or you could make a decoction of ginger and just add a teaspoon of liquid jaggery to it. Okay, and you can consume this decoction maybe half a glass 3 to 4 times a day. And if you want to know in detail about painful periods, different reasons for it and remedies, you can watch my video on YouTube channel. Next, let's talk about premenstrual syndrome. So in premenstrual syndrome, a girl experiences a combination of physical and psychological symptoms. As I've mentioned here, few of them could be more pronounced, such as gassy feeling, fullness and heaviness in stomach, pain in breasts could be very tender, irritability, headache, tearfulness, tiredness, sleeplessness 7 to 10 days before the expected date of her periods. Please know that PMS is a temporary state of feeling, because of the falling levels of estrogen hormone, okay, during this time of the month only. So how to overcome PMS? So foods rich in estrogens like fenugreek, broccoli, flax seeds, soya, fennel seeds may be beneficial, okay? And such foods are called as phytoestrogens, that is, they contain estrogen, okay? And taking phytoestrogens during this phase can help you overcome PMS symptoms, okay? Avoiding intake of salt, caffeine, spicy and fatty foods may also help, okay? Pranayama, yogasanas, meditation, outdoor activities, sports may help you reduce the severity of symptoms, okay? And if needed, your doctor may suggest hormonal pills or other medications in severe cases. Next, let's talk about polycystic ovarian disease or polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS or PCOS. This is one of the most talked about female problems these days, right? So on the left-hand side in this slide, you see the picture of a normal ovary. And on the right, you see water-filled bubbles in the ovary. This is exactly how the ovary of a girl with PCOS looks like. Let's know what causes PCOS. Firstly, unhealthy diet. Regular and excess intake of high sugar containing foods like pastries, donuts, fattening foods, aerated drinks, and untimely food habits cause PCOS. Secondly, sedentary lifestyle. What is it? Sitting in one place for a very long time, lack of physical exercises, lack of good night's sleep, waking up late. So all these changes your biological rhythm and it disturbs the hormonal environment inside your body. Third reason is weight gain. Okay, being overweight and obese increase your chance of getting PCOS. Fourth, genetics. Parents having genes responsible for causing PCOS or diabetes may pass on the same to their kids. Next, environmental factors like pollution, foods laden with pesticides, microplastics in food and water can also cause PCOS. So it is essential to wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly before you consume. Next is stress. So stress is another important reason for PCOS. Girls suffering from PCOS may show any of these signs and symptoms. First, irregular periods. So a girl with PCOS can have, she can get periods once in 2 months, once in 3 months, or maybe she may not get periods for 6 months. Or if she starts bleeding, she could bleed for 10, 12 days or even, longer. And sometimes the bleeding is too low, or sometimes there is heavy bleeding. There are different kinds of irregularities that can happen. There is a development of hair on the face, especially around the lips, chin. There could be tremendous hair fall, acne, and some girls may have pain in lower tummy on and off. Never take this condition lightly, because girls with PCOS may have difficulty in getting pregnant later in life. So how to overcome PCOS? PCOS occurs because of erratic, unhealthy diet and lifestyle. So following a good diet and lifestyle is the only mantra to prevent and overcome PCOS. Weight reduction in overweight and obese girls is very much beneficial. Practice of yogasanas, pranayama, meditation will not only keep your weight, but also stress down. Next, let's talk about acne. Acne is one of the major complaints among teenagers, though it does not pose a great health risk. Acne develops when oily substance in the skin called sebum clogs the pores in your skin. So acne can pop up on your face, neck, back, shoulders, So what are the reasons for this? The reasons for this could be changing hormonal levels. It could be because of stress, it could be because of pollution, dust, or dandruff. Next is the most important questions. How to fight acne? So here are a few tips to fight acne. First, washing your face twice a day with mild soap or face wash. Keeping your skin well hydrated. Drink plenty of water or fluids. And use of natural moisturizers containing aloe vera, almond oil, coconut oil. Girls having dry skin can choose almond oil or coconut oil, whereas girls with oily skin can go for aloe vera or rose water containing moisturizers. Avoid oily, sugary, dehydrating foods. Avoid face picking and chemical containing beauty products. Okay, I've mentioned a few remedies here. Application of paste of turmeric with milk cream is very much beneficial, and it is readily available at home, right? So you can as well use gram flour or basin. You can add a teaspoon of turmeric to it and fresh milk. Okay, you can make a paste of it and apply on your face, leave it for half an hour, and then you can rinse your face. Application of rose water every night before going to bed. Use of sunscreen lotions, preferably SPF 50, before going out in the sun is very essential. Next, how to improve reproductive health. So following three principles: Ahara, Vihara, and Vichara. So this should be the holistic approach. Okay. I know most of you all here learn Sanskrit, so I'm very sure you might have got the meaning of it already. Yes, Ahara refers to intake of healthy foods. Vihara means following healthy regimen. And third is Vichara, that is having good thoughts for mental well-being. First, let's talk about Ahara. Girls, you should start getting into the habit of healthy eating. Good diet should contain adequate amount of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and also micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, water, and fiber. Good fiber intake adds to the bulk of your stools or motion. It keeps your colon clean, and this in turn makes you have good appetite. Besides good diet, timely food intake is also equally important for good metabolism. Avoid regular and excess consumption of burgers, pizzas, pastries, heavy, spicy, and oily foods. Next, let's talk about Vihara. So Vihara is all about having a healthy routine. So if you're not a morning person, slowly start inculcating the habit of going early to bed and waking up early in the morning. This is very important from the point of view of keeping harmony in your body hormones. By following a healthy routine, you feel fresh throughout the day, right? Your mind is active. Your brain is sensitive to grasp knowledge. And in the long run, this will help you keep up good health and you will have good immunity to fight diseases. Next is Vichara. How is Vichara important in this context? The word Vichara here means to have good thoughts, clear thoughts about anything. Could be a person or thing or your goal, your desires, whatever it may be. Okay. Now, how are these related? So we have already discussed this, that how brain and reproductive organs are connected through hormones. When you have good thoughts, you create a good internal vibration around you, don't you? So your body reduces the release of stress hormones and start making happy hormones. Okay. Your body and mind are active throughout your day, helping you to grasp knowledge, as I said, study well, perform your activities correctly and quickly. It brings a sense of happiness, satisfaction, and optimism in whatever you do. This will help you perform better at school, in your extracurriculum, or working towards achieving your goal or career or aspiration. Now, the next question arises, how to achieve this? So the answer to this is yoga. Okay, relaxation techniques, deep breathing techniques or pranayama, yogasanas or different body postures are very essential to improve your concentration. Okay, it helps you release happy hormones in the body. It reduces your stress levels. On the whole, it helps you keep yourself physically and mentally healthy. Next, let's discuss 2 important vaccines to be given in adolescent age group. I insist all the mothers here to make sure your child has taken all the vaccines as per immunization schedule. But as far as the reproductive health is concerned, I suggest all the teenage girls here to take a HPV vaccine. HPV vaccine prevents genital warts and a more serious condition like cervical cancer in the future. All preteens need 2 doses of HPV at the age of 11 or 12ish. Older teens who have not been vaccinated need 2 to 3 doses. B, rubella vaccine. This is generally given with measles and mumps as MMR early in your childhood. But if early doses are missed, rubella vaccine alone can be given in teenagers, or 2 doses of MMR should be taken. Rubella is one such infection which is said to cause repeated abortions. And severe rubella infection in pregnancy can cause problems to baby inside the womb. With this, we come to the end of today's discussion. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Samatha ma'am, for speaking to us and enlightening us with your knowledge. Starting from something as simple as a structure to the physical change, mental change, you have elucidated everything very precisely. The way you explained all the complicated science in baby language made everything sound simple and crystal clear. We are very grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with the Disha today. Now we'll begin the questionnaire and we encourage you all to put forward your queries. So we have a question here. Ma'am, when do you think we should properly start educating a girl child about menstruation and menstrual health?
Okay, a very good question. I think a girl should be educated about menstruation in the pre-pubertal phase. That is, before she is 11, around the age of 8, 9 or 10, I think parents, especially mothers, should start educating their kids about what is going to happen with her in the near future.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So we have another question. It is very common nowadays to take painkillers for period pain these days. Are all of these safe enough to reduce menstrual pain?
So Maftol spas that I said, that contains something called mefenamic acid, which is a very common prescription these days. Okay, and it comes under NSAIDs, that is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay, so although they are non-steroidal, okay, they are said to have side effects, but the side effects of these are very less when compared to other set of medications. I wouldn't suggest girls to go for painkillers every month. I spoke about lifestyle modifications which can help her bear the pain, or it could also help her get rid of pain completely.
Okay, you explained that very well. So next we have a question here. When should be a cervical cancer vaccine given, and is it mandatory?
It should ideally be given at the age of 11, 13 or 15. She should have completed both the doses by the age of 15. But most women are not aware of it. Okay, most mothers themselves are not aware of it. So it so happens that in practicality, generally a woman takes HPV vaccines before she conceives, or she goes for a preconceptional checkup. But that is not what I recommend. I want teenage girls to know that it should be taken at the age of 11, 12 or 13 as early as possible, so that her risk of developing cervical cancer in the future goes to almost nil.
Okay, I hope that cleared the query. We'll have one more question. Due to lack of interaction, teens nowadays tend to isolate themselves. This may cause loneliness and depression. Will this affect the physical health of a teen, and how can we prevent this?
Definitely. As I told you, like female body and her reproductive organs, they are interconnected. The brain, the psychological part and the physical structure, they are interconnected. Okay, although she's suffering from some problems, there's mood swing, she's feeling low, but it is ideal that she interacts with her mother or elders, and she shares her problems with doctor. And that's the reason I tell, girls should start visiting a gynecologist on a regular basis, at least once a year, so that she develops a rapport with her doctor. She can share her problems.
Yes, ma'am, we get it. So since we're running short of time, we'll have to end this session here. Thank you all for your questions, and we also hope your doubts and concerns are clarified. Those who weren't able to ask their questions will be given Dr. Samantha's email ID so that you can clear all your questions with her.